We've decided to scout some strikers, and to do this, we've created a unique database that you will not find anywhere else. We've scouted strikers across Europe and in the Premier League, and on the list is Keenan Davis. Now, it's not a time to switch off. Stick with me. It's a great show. Up the Villa. Hello and welcome back to Up the Villa. So we've decided to scout some strikers. We've created our own unique database. You know who's helped me. Earl has helped me create this database. And I want to take a look at strikers. I want to take a look at what type of striker could Aston Villa be looking for. Do we want to complement and have a striker that can play alongside or be a squad player and help Aston Villa be a starter and a finisher, which is something that we currently don't have? Or are we looking for a striker to replace Ollie Watkins? It's a tough conversation, but it is a conversation that needs to be had. So I'd love you to share your thoughts and get involved in everything that we discuss on this episode. So to create the database, I'm going to run through everything that we've done so you have a blueprint of what you are actually looking at and how we have created this database. So it is unique to me, it's unique to what I believe in areas that we are looking for and different attributes of a striker. Now, there could be different attributes that you might think are very important, but we haven't added this into this database. So it is quite large. You know, there's a scope of lots of different attributes that I think we've covered most things. So we started to pull data from FBref, top 5 leagues. Then we narrowed it down to forwards aged between 21 and 28, since that's what we said. So I've gone with 21, 28. I think within that sort of age profile, you're not getting super ultra raw 18, 19-year-olds. And you're not also getting 29, 30, 31, super experience. I think 21 to 28 is a good age profile for us to be looking at. Next, we group the stats into different player profile categories, which are key for forwards. So we've gone with goal scorer, goals per 90, volume shooter, shots per touch, creator, assists and expected assists per 90, and shot creating actions per touch, attacking passer, key passes per touch and passes into the penalty area per touch, attacking dribbler, successful take-ons per touch and carries into the penalty area per touch, ball retainer, passing accuracy percentage and dispossessed per touch, ball winner, tackles, interceptions, recoveries adjusted to team possession per 90, aerial winner, aerials won per 90. For each category, we gave each player a score from 0 to 10 based on where they are ranked compared to other forwards in the data set. Basically created my own percentile rankings. Score of 9.9 means they were better than 99% of my remaining list of players. 5.2 means they were better at 52%, etc. Then, to focus on the type of striker we were looking for, I applied a few cutoffs based on my top 4 of what I look for and I think is important within a striker. So I picked goal scorer, so score greater or equal to 7, a volume shooter greater or equal to 6, aerial winner greater or equal to 5, an attacking dribbler greater to equal of 4. After that, we manually removed any remaining wide forwards or wingers since we only wanted strikers. Finally, we sorted the Premier League table and then followed it by other leagues for an easier comparison. So basically, I picked the 4: goal scorer, volume shooter, aerial winner, and attacking dribbler. I picked those 4 because do we kind of want to look for a similar type of striker to Ollie Watkins or something a little bit different? So, goal scorer, bread and butter, stick the ball in the back of the net. Volume shooter, take shots off outside, in and around the box. I think that's very, very important because to have the ability to kind of create your own goals. Aerial winner. Now, we know that Unai likes to go long. We like to use the long ball at times. So, to be able to retain, keep the ball, keep it ticking, go longer, touch it in and around the box, I think is important. An attacking dribbler, because I think it's important for a striker to be able to take and beat a man. Right. So, here's what we've got. And this is our database that we have right in front of us. So we've got Premier League and we've got players in Europe. So we're going to start off with Premier League to start with. So in the Premier League, we've got Haaland, Isidore, Walter Marde, Richarlison, Ekatike, Thiago from Brentford, Mateta, and Gyökeres. There are some names that I think we could go, do you know what? Strand Larson, for example, I think he's a player that we could look at and go, he actually might be well suited to Villa, but he doesn't fit the criteria of what I've asked for. So I think we can run through the Premier League names, and I think there's a few that we can cross off and know that are very unrealistic. So we can start off with Haaland. And I think it's important. Let's just have a little base look. So it's easier if you do find this quite confusing because there are a lot of numbers. The first thing to look at is let's have a look at the goal scoring metric. He's at 9.9, which basically means he's absolutely unbelievable. If you're a 10, you are unbelievable in that metric. So we know that Haaland is absolutely sensational at scoring goals. Finisher, 9.7. Volume shooter, 9.9. So I think it's easy to look at this now and start to kind of understand whether a player is good in something or bad. We then go to say creator for Haaland, an attacking passer. He doesn't really. I think this season he started to get involved in build up a little bit more, like coming a bit deeper, taking a touch, laying off. But you can see that he's not that creative. He's not playing those attacking passes. Ball winning, quite surprising to be honest. An aerial winner is at 8.8. So you can kind of gauge where we're at. Now, there's a couple of strikers that you will remember when we did these scouting episodes in the summer, and the 2 names that I really pinpointed as players that I love and think would have been brilliant at Aston Villa. One unrealistic, one could have been realistic. Walter Marde could have come to Villa. There's no reason why he would pick Newcastle over Villa. So Ekatike, we've seen this season in the Premier League, sensational, unbelievable. You know, goal scoring 8.7, 8 for finishing, 8.3 volume shooter, creator, pretty decent, 5.1, aerials, very decent, 7.7, attacking dribbler, 7.7. So you can kind of then see that if you think about Ekatike, these stats fill in with what your eye test is saying. Walter Marde, again, another player that I really like. Little bit rawer, 23 years of age, somebody that's going to grow and get better and better. A really good age profile. You can look at his numbers to start with: 9 for goal scorer, 8.5 finisher, 7.7. Some of the other areas that I think could improve on: aerial winning, ball winning, you know, being a bit more of an attacking passer. Creatively, it's quite low. But again, he's 23 and he's got a scope there and a room to be able to grow. So you're then looking at some other players, and actually, Richarlison, I look at Richarlison and I go, do you know what? You're actually like decent, but you're not groundbreaking. You miss chances. But then take a look at his numbers, and we look at 8.8 for goal scorer, 8.3 for finishing, 8.8 for volume shooter, creator 7, attacking dribbler 5, aerial winner 9. He's actually not a bad striker, but I believe with someone like Richarlison, he needs to play games. So as a squad rotated player, he's not actually that bad of a striker for me. And then we start to go into 3 names. I think all 3 names could be on the radar of Aston Villa in the Premier League, and add Strand Larson to that. Isidore, we've got Thiago, and we've got Mateta. Those players are, for me, would be on Villa's radar. Villa will be looking at these players. And I look at 2 of them on this list, and I look at Isidore, and I think you've got to prove a bit more for me, I think, with someone like Isidore. And Unai Emery, and I mentioned this on an episode that I did a couple of days ago, and I've been talking about the players that I've been watching Unai Emery have over the years. Unai Emery's best ever striker is Cavani. The numbers that he got from Cavani were absolutely unbelievable. I've got the numbers on my phone right here. Cavani played 98 games under Unai Emery, and he scored 89 goals in 2 seasons. That is unbelievable. If anybody's got any spare time over the international break, type in Cavani and Unai Emery on YouTube, and you'll be able to watch him. Absolutely unbelievable. You forget the players that Emery's had. He's had Neymar. Like, Emery's had Neymar. Like, Unai Emery has had so many good players. And yeah, very, very good. So I believe he could get the best out of any of these players that come. But I like the age of Isidore, 25. And I like the age of Thiago, 24. Now, Isidore, we've got 9.3 for goal scoring, 8.5 for finishing, 9.9 for volume shooting. Unbelievable. Very, very good. But we know with Ollie Watkins, and we know with the Villa system that you've got to be able to do a bit more. You've got to add other elements to your game. And this is why I was saying that I've got to see a bit more from Isidore. Creating 2.2, 0.2 attacking passer, 1.1 ball retainer, 1.5 ball winner, 7.1 aerials isn't bad. But I think that Villa really could do with an attacking striker that can be edge of the box, touch, lay off, get into the box. I think we need that element at times, because when we're coming up against low block teams, and low block teams is something that Villa do come up against, and we've actually managed it quite well in recent games. There's 2 different styles to Villa, isn't there? There's the games against the top teams, which they come at us, we play through them. Or there's ones where low block, there's not as much space to run behind. So sometimes you don't necessarily always need that willing runner off the shoulder, because the space isn't there. So a different type of profile of striker enables us to have a different element for that given reason. And for me, Isidore right now, what we've seen edge of the box, it's not there. The next one is very interesting. It's Thiago at Brentford, who was injured last season and has now started bagging goals and looks very good. And we have been linked with him so far. So we know in the media, Aston Villa are linked with this player. The positive, again, is 24. We've got goal scorer, 8.3, 8.5, 7.9. Aerial winner, 9.3. And here we've got some numbers creatively, 3.8, 2.6, 3.5, 4.5, 3. Slightly better than Isidore. And so if I had to pick out of those 2, I'd be going for Thiago. And I think I like him. I think he's done well, but he cost a lot of money. Have we got a body of work so far to say he's the guy? I'm not sure. Then the next one is Mateta, 28, 8.1 for goal scorer, 3.6 for finisher, 9.7 volume shooter, creator 1.8, 2.1 for attacking passer, 3.5, 1.3 for ball retainer, 3.3 for ball winner, and 9 for aerials. I like Mateta, but I still don't think he's. I don't think he's the answer for Villa either. I do like him. I think he's a finisher in front of goal. He's clinical. I do like his work rate. I love his aerials. That's something that I'm really big on at the minute. Winning aerials, keeping hold of the ball. So that is important. But we can see here, ball retainer, it's quite low for Mateta. So again, I wouldn't really be all in on Mateta. So for me personally, Premier League striker so far is Thiago. I think he's the one that I've really got my eye on. Now, we now go into Europe. We're now in Europe, guys. Look at the bottom. Keenan Davis, guys. Keenan Davis, 27 years of age, 7.2 for goal scorer, 4.6 finisher, 9 volume shooter, 8.1 creative, 7.6 attacking passer, 9.2 attacking dribbler, 9.1 aerial winner. What in the Keenan Davis have we got here? But no, he's doing very well at Udinese, but he's not for me. He's not for me at all. I didn't mention Gyökeres because he's at Arsenal, etc. And there's a couple that have popped up: Vlahovic and Thuram. No, unfortunately, wages, fee out of our price range, and I just think they're not a good fit for Villa. I don't think. I've got to be honest. 28 Thuram was linked a couple of years ago with Villa. Vlahovic, how's he still 25, by the way? But I think I think just wages wise, it's just unrealistic to look at those players. And then we've got a couple of players here now that do kind of stand out a little bit. Now, I'm going to go with my first one. My favourite one is Magri from Toulouse. 26 years of age, really good age. 8.2 for goal scorer, 8.9 for finisher, 7.2, 4.3 for creative, 6 for attacking passer, 5.7 for attacking dribbler, 2.9 for ball retainer, ball winner 2.5, and 9.1 for aerials. And for me, he's an all-rounder. I think he's the most complete player on this list. And I like the calming nature with him in front of goal. He's a good finisher. So he would possibly be somebody that I would be looking at. And he's a little bit of a mixture between, can win those aerials, can be a little bit creative, an attacking dribbler, and a decent finisher. So for him, I quite like him. Cucho Hernandez is a player that we know well, guys, because this player bagged a hat-trick against Aston Villa in a pre-season game. Can't think of the name of the team that he played for. Playing yellow. Gone out my head. But he scored a hat-trick. So he's good. 26 years of age. 7.8 goal scorer. 6.3 finisher. 8.6 volume shooter. 6.1 creator. 2.8 attacking passer. 4.9 attacking dribbler. 2.6 ball retainer, 4 ball winner, and 8.2 aerials. Very quick, very sharp. When he hits them, they stay hit, and he is rapid. But what I would say, when Unai Emery sees a player and he likes them, he generally signs them. So, like Morgan Rogers. So this one has alluded to Unai radar. I would worry adaptation to the Premier League with this one, and that would be my biggest concern. We've then got Romero of Levante, who is quite quick and he dribbles well at speed. We've got 9 for goal scorer, 7.6 for finisher, 8.3 volume shooter, 4.1 creator, 4.3 attacking passer, attacking dribbler, 7.7. So I spoke about the dribbling, 1.7 ball retainer, 3 ball winner, 8 aerial winner. Good, but I don't know whether he excites me enough. And I think I've spoke about this before, but when you're signing strikers, you want them to be exciting. It's the best type of player to sign, in my opinion, a striker. And then we've really got an interesting one at the bottom. Demi Rovic from Stuttgart. 7.6 goal scorer, 8.1 finisher, 8.1 volume shooter, 6.6 creator, 7.9 attacking passer, attacking dribbler 4.3, 3 for ball retainer, 2.1 ball winner, 5.9 aerials. This player for me is very interesting because he's 27, and this could be a complementing player for Watkins because he's completely different. Stature, tall, strong, very good at the edge of the box, very good in build-up, completely different to Watkins. But remember, when you've got a striker who's first choice, you're never going to sign another first choice striker. It's not happening. You're not spending 40, 50, 60 million pound on a striker when you've already got a first team player that plays every game. It makes no sense. It makes no sense to Villa in our current situation to then sign another striker on 100 plus grand a week. So 27, sort of getting in his prime, but with the fee would be a lot lower. Quite an interesting striker for me. So this is my database of creative attacking players, attacking strikers who fit the criteria. And I'll just reiterate the criteria that I wanted of the 4 on this list. So the 4 on this list. So out of all of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Out of these 9, I picked 4 that were very important for me. Goal scorer, volume shooter, aerial winner, and attacking dribbler. Now, if your important ones were creator, attacking passer, ball winner, or ball retainer, then there's probably higher players that would stand out more so than these players. So it all depends on what you want. But I think this is a good overview of players that are in Europe and in the Premier League, especially the Premier League. I think a lot of those ones on there are ones that we would possibly be looking at within the Premier League. Now, there is going to be a disclaimer, guys. Just have a sip of water. There is a disclaimer here. I am not for 1 minute saying I have given up on Ollie Watkins. I'm not. That's not why I'm doing this episode. Why I am doing this episode is because I want to create content that I find enjoyable. And we created this little database out of nothing. The idea came out of nothing and it developed into this. And for whatever, and to be honest, like long-standing viewers of this channel know that I have backed Ollie Watkins probably more than I think I've backed him as much as the next person that backs Ollie Watkins a lot. In my other setup, I used to have a picture of Ollie Watkins on the wall. Now, you're not going on that wall if I don't like you. But I do think it's important that we now look further and look ahead to Aston Villa and sometimes have a little bit of a difficult conversation in the sense of, I love Watkins, but he's not going to be here forever. He's not going to be here forever. He's just not. So you've got to look at the bigger picture at times and look at the situation that we're in and think, what are we going to look like in the summer? What's the landscape going to be? Where are we recruiting? I will do another one of these where I recruit for a winger because I do believe we need a winger. We need pace in the team. So whether it's to replace Watkins or complement him or play alongside him, we've only got one striker. So for me personally, that's still not enough. We still need a striker to push him. And I know you have that argument of Watkins doesn't like it when he's got competition. Like, tough, like unique. Does he play better with or without competition? I don't know. But we need another striker. Do we need a younger striker coming through? We could do. We've got Rory Wilson, but in my opinion, he's a long way off. Long way off. Even playing for Aston Villa. So it's important that we take a look. Now, I'm going to caveat this episode and kind of talk a little bit about Watkins, because we all know the best part of Watkins is his work rate, running channels, keeping hold of the ball, setting tactical traps, allowing space for other players. And I think all of that is very, very important. But the other element that you've got as well is that he's got one goal in 11 games, which I'll put it like this. If you were to say to Ollie Watkins, are you having a good season and are you happy with how many goals you've scored? He will say no. So what I'm saying, I'm not being heavily critical on him, but what I am saying is if he wouldn't agree that he's scored enough goals, then it's okay for us to go, you haven't scored enough goals. Now, does he get enough chances? Maybe not. But I think the way in which he's playing this season adds into that factor of why he's not getting as many chances. And I'm going to show you. So far this season, this is how Villa are lining up. Now, we are lining up like this because Unai Emery has had to adapt this season. Unai Emery is not in ideal situation where he goes, I've got my perfect wide right player. He's not going, I've probably got my perfect situation and set up anywhere. He can look at this team, and you can always look at the team and go, we need a bit more here. So you'd look at that situation there and go, right now, that isn't ideal. It's not. The ideal scenario is probably if we've got a wide winger, etc., who stays out wide, vice versa. Right. Anyway, I'm trying to make a point here, guys, so stick with me. So Unai Emery has had to adapt. He's had to adapt because the summer recruitment wasn't good enough. We know it wasn't good enough because the head of recruitment at the time has now left. We've now brought in Alabe, who is going to take Villa maybe down a different direction. So what are we seeing from Watkins this season and from Unai Emery is everything is becoming very narrow. Now, that's fine. Narrow's fine. Narrow isn't a problem. And we're looking a bit like this, aren't we? So what's Watkins doing this season is Watkins is mainly operating out there. So a lot of his body of work is, remember before when he was told to just focus in the width of the 18-yard box? Well, this season, we've changed that now. So we're now venturing out more to the left-hand side, which doesn't give him a focus of just leading the line. If I was to go, where does Mateta play? There. Where does Strand Larson play? There. Where does Isidore play? There. All very, very central. You know, if you're a striker, the best place for you to be is central because you're central to the goal. You're central to the goal that you're trying to score in. Now, if you're going out there, you are quite far away from being central and into the goal. So against the better teams, we're starting to see him drift out there. Now, what I do want to show you is to just take a look at Watkins as well. Let's take a look at Watkins' last 3 seasons. So the season when we qualified for the Champions League, this was Ollie Watkins' heat map for the whole season. So you can see very central even the red spots outside of the 18-yard box are central, and inside the box, red. Now, if we go and have a look at last season, we can see again, width of the 18-yard box, not venturing too much to the left, still quite heavy inside the 18-yard box. Now, this season, what do we see? A complete stark contrast between those other two seasons. Not as red in the 18-yard box, but his main body of work is on that left-hand side. It's important. It's very, very important. So we can already see that what we're asking of Watkins is something totally different to suit the system. If he goes out on that left, does it free up more space for Buendia central, Rogers central, Marlon central, McGinn, Gesson central? It probably does. So there is like that caveat between probably why he's not scoring, why he's not having as much of an impact with his goals. But I also kind of do believe when I've put on the title about, I think I've put challenge. Yeah. So to challenge or replace Watkins. So to challenge could be another player to come in and fight for the shirt. To challenge could also be playing together, two different type of strikers. If you could sign maybe a striker that does stay central, because we do play with the two, and Emery spoke about doing this before. And Watkins is the one then that sort of drifts more to the left, maybe, because we know he was a winger. Because you've got to think of what's Watkins gonna be later on in his career. Can he drift back to being a bit more of a winger? You see players start out like Ashley Young as a winger and go at right back. I'm not saying Watkins is going to go and be a left back, but just those different variations and just getting different fits and different looks, because so far this season, it looks to me more like there's not an over reliance on Watkins's goals, but the contribution for the team is kind of maybe a little bit more important right now. So it's interesting to see where we go as a team, what direction, what do we do, where do we recruit, what is important. So I really wanted to do this episode just to do something a bit different, something unique, something that is just unique to Up the Villa, really. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on whether does Watkins need straight out replacing? Does he need challenging? What type of strikers do we need? What type of striker stands out for you? And we will do this maybe for a right winger or any other positions that you think are quite important. So hopefully this has been interesting. I think it has. I find it absolutely fascinating, to be honest. But that's just me. But yeah, so make sure you're smashing the like button, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel Up the Villa.